Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Citizens Police Advisory Council's April meeting. I'm Twan Fielding, the current chairman of the committee, and I hope everyone has their agenda with them. If not, I will be stating what items will come up next on the agenda. We'd like to have the roll call now. Andrea, would you be able to do the roll call for us?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Frank Walsh,
Yep. Yes, here.
Ryan Davis,
I'm here.
Twain Fielding,
Here.
Paul Tamburino,
Here.
George Palmer, Emily Broom, Melvin Ezell,
Here.
Jack Handigan, Doris Grant,
Here.
Becca White,
Here.
Moyu Yamaguchi,
Here.
Jerome Harris, Eduardo Curry, Marisol Bailey. Okay, you do have a quorum though.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Were there any citizens who signed up to speak? Just wanted to make sure before we approve the minutes. Everyone, did you get a chance to review the minutes that Captain McFadden sent and emailed out to us? The number of attachments? Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
Thank you. Thanks,
Second.
Frank. Thank you, Pat. It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from our previous meeting. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
All right.
Becca, did you get a chance to read the minutes? Okay, thank you. Okay, any opposition? Don't see any. Thank you very much. The minutes are approved from our February meeting. Okay, now we're at the citizens participation period. Andrea or Captain McFadden, did anyone sign up to speak to us tonight?
We did not have anyone signed up to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. And council members, while we're at this particular point, I need to explain that I made a mistake. Our previous activities, that the way we previously did our agendas and the timing for getting those done was previously with Wendy Stiver and Steve Rumelin, we would get that done within 7 days and then it got posted. Captain McFadden has informed, we had a long conversation and I was informed that we need to get the agenda to her 2 weeks prior to the meeting. I'm saying that to everyone so that when we transition at the end of the year to a new chairman and co-chairman, that will not be something I would have forgotten to share so that those people would be prepared to be able to ensure that the meeting goes over smoothly. And then secondly, I wanted you to know so that if you have items that you wish to have discussed during the CPAC meeting that did not come up during a meeting, please make sure that you email that information to me in sufficient time so that it could be added to the agenda and I could submit that to Captain McFadden 2 weeks prior to the date of the meeting. Next on the agenda, many of you were not made aware, and I was hoping he and I talked, but he might have had a work commitment that prohibited him from joining tonight. But Councilman Camden Shields, who was serving as the chairman for the Traffic Stop Committee, has realized that he has a conflict and has some changes that have gone on that require him to resign from this council. Cam has been very, very active in the past. We are definitely going to miss him. And if you get a chance to send him an email of thanks, please do so at your leisure. Which means then, and I've already talked to Steve Romelin, means that we do not have a representative from Cam's district. So Steve is going to work with the council member to get Cam replaced. And Steve, we also have a replacement we're due for Mary Alice Mack as well, correct?
That is correct. I have communicated to Councilmember Mitchell, and I'm just waiting for his reply on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments thus far? Okay, now we go to the subcommittee reports. And I do want to say to Councilman Harris, Councilman Harris, you'll see that under the City of Charleston Police Department updates, I listed the majority of what you had submitted with the exception of one item, because I thought you'd probably be discussing that more during the Policies and Procedures Subcommittee. With that stated, Councilman Tamburino, would you please give us the Communications Subcommittee report?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody's got the notes, so I'm not really going to rehash the notes for you. Just the real big highlight of that, and I think the bulk of the work of the Communications Subcommittee at this point is determining a topic for CPAC. We agreed to hold informational sessions with the public because we knew the individual council members were not necessarily meeting with their constituents in the neighborhood. So we wanted to centralize some of our educational sessions. And we put on the first one earlier this year, and we've announced the results on that, the CPAC meeting. So our most recent subcommittee meeting, we came up with topic number 2, which is going to be the new police dashboard that's been out there for quite a while. I know all of us are familiar with it, but this is a very valuable tool for the public to see and understand how it works. So we have that planned for in early May, and we hope everybody can join. Once we have the invite sent, we'll make sure all the council members receive that. And again, we're going to do it the same way we did before. The primary presenter is going to be from the police department. And I think that's going to be a big help for us. And then Emily Broom is also going to be our host again. So I hope everybody can make that. You'll also see in your notes that we put forth our recommended schedule of different topics for the remainder of the year, just so we have those and we can start thinking through those. But that's pretty much the bulk of what the subcommittee did. Anybody have any questions? All right.
Councilman Tamburino,
Yes, ma'am.
when do you want the CPAC members to respond back to you regarding the topics that the subcommittee planned?
So through a previous motion that we had, we were empowered to go forward with that without needing the CPAC's approval. So, I mean, you can certainly, what I would say to you guys is for feedback, definitely look at our forthcoming ones. I think we put for Q3, we came up with de-escalation initiatives, Q4, traffic stop procedures, and Q1 of next year, racial bias dashboard. What I would recommend is, you guys look at that. If you've got some other ideas or you want to make recommendations, definitely send it to us. We want as much feedback as we can get. It's hard for 2 or 3 people to decide for the whole, but when left to our own devices, that's what we come up with. So as much feedback as you can give, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Any
Chair.
questions or comments for Paul and the Communications Subcommittee? Now, Paul, given the fact that the subcommittee has laid out very well the session, the upcoming sessions, does that subcommittee need to continue meeting monthly, bi-monthly, or would it be best to move to a quarterly kind of assessment meeting?
Madam Chair, I probably agree with you. I think, it doesn't require a lot of logistics to plan for these meetings, and we typically will hold, we've decided pretty much for the full year. So that's pretty easy. We do conduct a small session, so we don't require all the committee members, a small session on almost like a rehearsal run through for that. So that's not really a committee thing. That's more one-on-one with who the presenter is going to be and just fine tuning that. So quarterly is perfectly fine with me. I think even then, we'll struggle for things to look for.
Okay, well then what we'll do is from this moment on, then the communication subcommittee can use that quarterly meeting format, and Councilmember Tamburino, Chairman, you can set whichever date, as you communicate with the subcommittee members. That will then free up those members to participate in one of the other two subcommittees. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, council members, when Councilmember Harris finishes giving his report for the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee. Is there anything else with Communication Subcommittee? If you would, too, members, please remember that these sessions are recorded. So if you miss it when it was actually produced, please make sure you let your councilman know, your city councilman know, so that if they have communications they send out to the public, that they can reference the exact link for that session. And then members in their constituency could go back and look at those and share them with other organizations for which they are members. I think that's really a wonderful thing. I actually shared it with some other folks at church so that they would get a chance to take a look and see and start getting used to the fact that these sessions are available, and it will help tremendously, I think, with communications between the community and the police department. It could also help to generate some questions from the community that we can use to go back and share with the police department to see if other improvements can be made. Thanks again, Councilman Tamburino. We'll go on now to the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee. Councilman Harris.
Good evening, you guys. I'm traveling, so you got me in the car in the middle of a rainstorm. Madam Chair, as you noted, you have everybody has the minutes of the meeting, and it was not well attended, but we did get some wonderful updates that we think should be shared, and they're listed later in the agenda. One thing that did come up that there's a recommendation. It was a discussion, and perhaps we'll just get to it when Captain Quintella reviews the process for the policy reviews and the timetable. But there was a suggestion that perhaps that the policy subcommittee be delegated the responsibility for reviewing within either the 15 or 30-day time frame, whichever the department comes up with, in order to expedite response and reaction, not having the committee have to review it, then the CPAC hear it, and then those comments going forward. That was one item that we discussed because only Paul and I were there. It's not a recommendation, it was a discussion, and we'll see what Captain Quintella says subsequently. I think the only other point, the only other point I'd raise is that the fair policing general order number 7 has been promulgated. It was one of the priority ones that this policy subcommittee had requested. We had not reviewed and commented on it, but as Captain Quintella will mention later, even though it's been promulgated, we still have the opportunity to report and respond and make any recommendations. And that'll conclude my report, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Harrison. Please be safe traveling there. Hopefully you'll be able to continue to hear the meeting because the weather is starting to make up a bit down here as well. So please be safe on your travels. I do also want to say that I did get a chance to meet with Deputy Chief Walker and Captain Quintella after our February meeting, and we discussed possibilities for review. We thought we came up with a good plan to present back to CPAC for reviewing the general orders to ensure that CPAC gets a chance to review before it actually gets promulgated with the general community. So I'm sure Captain Quintella, if he wasn't planning to say something about it, I'm sure he'll say something about it when he gets to briefing under the CBD updates. The other item we wanted to bring up is you notice Councilman Harris did mention that the meeting, the policy subcommittee meeting was not well attended, was poorly attended. It was just he and Council Member Tamburino. So what Councilmember Tamburino and I have discussed back and forth electronically is given the progress that's been made with communications and how if the CPAC had agreed that we could wind down and do quarterly meetings, then all of the CPAC members would need to be on the policy subcommittee. That way, everyone would be reading the policies and providing their comments based on their area or their perspective. I'd like to have a little bit of open discussion on that because the policies and procedures are really what's critical. There are a number of critical items, but those are really what's tantamount to seeing how the police department reacts, responds, to ensure we improve the communications with the community. It was one of the issues that was brought up a number of places in the racial bias audit. And I really think it's something that we need to give serious consideration to our participation on that subcommittee. Any discussion from others? Let's don't be shy because that really is committing what's getting ready to happen is it's committing everybody's time to doing that. I know the subcommittees, we have the best intentions of attending. I missed the last two communication subcommittee meetings. And I know the time life happens and time can challenge us pretty often, but we do know that the policies and procedures really, really need our attention as a council. And rather than take it in a council meeting, we can try it where all of us attend the policy and procedures subcommittee meeting. And then if that doesn't work, then we will have to take it over in CPAC meeting because we can't afford to allow that critical part of our responsibilities in the guidance document for CPAC to go unattended. And with that said, I'm going to hush up and get Paul to talk.
All right, I'm going to use a terrible cliche. Everybody's going to groan when I say it, but we're going to do a little good cop, bad cop for a minute. And obviously, Madam Chairwoman's the good cop. I'm going to be a little bit more blunt. I attended the policy subcommittee meeting, not as a normal member, but just to be supportive. And to be fair, guys, I was a little bit embarrassed that Councilmember Harris was by himself and that we had more attendees from the police department who are taking time out to do this for us. I was embarrassed by that. And I was embarrassed for each and every one of us. You know, I get it. Everybody's got school, jobs, whatever. So do I. Okay. And we're only doing these meetings if you're on one subcommittee in the CPAC meeting 2 times every 3 months. That's it. So what I would really strongly suggest that all of you volunteered to your council member, to the mayor, to be on this group. Break your back to make one of the 2 meetings. You know, if you can't make it to the policy one, which is the most critical one, then do your darndest to try to be on the traffic one. So make sure you're on at least one of each of these, right? If you can attend both, you're providing more value to the people in your district. You're providing more value to your council member, but we understand. But guys, at least one, that's what this is all about, because I don't want to be on another call where there's more members of the police department than us. And that's just my, I know it's a little bit harsh, but that's okay. It's the end of a long day where I work too. And, I just want to make sure that we're engaged because if we become a rubber stamp committee that just exists to say the city did something, but we're not actually providing value, that's on us, not on them.
Thank you, Councilmember Tamburino. Any others would like to speak up? Councilmember
Yeah.
Grant, Doris Grant.
As a member of the policy committee, I would like to offer my apologies. I did not make that meeting. I had a death in the family, and I don't think I might have properly communicated the fact that I would not be at that meeting. So yeah, I apologize, and I think that might have been the first meeting that I might have missed. So yeah, I am sorry that others didn't attend, and there were only 2 people there to represent, but I just wanted to acknowledge my part for missing the meeting.
Doris, to be fair, we did understand your situation. We did know. So you did communicate that. And yes, everybody, she's at more meetings than I am. So that was certainly not directed in your direction. You know, and our condolences to you and your family.
Yes,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Councilwoman Grant. I was about to say the same thing. Condolences to you and your family. And thank you for speaking up. Any other members? Okay, so as far as the direction that we'll proceed from this moment on, all CPAC members will receive an invite. You'll get I think it's a Google poll or something where you have to pick which date and time for the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee meeting. Please pay attention to your emails so that you can send in your preference. And then if your preference is not the one that's selected and you are not able to attend the meeting, please send an email to Councilman Harris and copy me on that email, please, so that we will know that you did at least receive the invite and you were aware of the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee meeting. So we will continue to have Policy Procedures Subcommittee meetings in between the CPAC meetings. And let's see how that works for this next round. And we can discuss it again at our June meeting. Okay, Councilman Harris, does that work for you?
Yeah,
Okay,
you know, as we've discussed on a number of occasions, if the members go back and review the last 2 CPAC meetings, we've identified the priorities that the policy committee had participants. So similarly, if there are additional priority areas, I'm certain that the folks in traffic, I know that the department's working on modifying the traffic directives and procedures. So that will probably be high on the agenda in the next couple of, during the balance of the year.
okay. Thank
We do
you.
need help.
And we're here to serve. So we're definitely, I'm glad everyone was able to listen through that, and hopefully you are recommitting yourself to participation as you have been doing, or even more so. And so we look forward to seeing you at the next Policy and Procedures Subcommittee meeting. Now with the Traffic Stop Subcommittee, I know they had been working once when our former chairman was President Joe Lycett. They were developing a PowerPoint that was going to be available for sharing regarding what's the proper way to react during a traffic stop, the proper steps you're to do. Unfortunately, Councilman Shields was the chairman that stepped up to chair that subcommittee after Councilmember Lycett resigned. So we now find ourselves needing another chairman for the traffic stop subcommittee. So, and you do not have to be, there are no requirements on being the chairman other than organizing the meetings, planning the agendas, and leading through being the facilitative leader during your subcommittee's meeting. With that stated, the floor is now open for a chairman for the traffic stop subcommittee. Doesn't matter if you're on the committee or not at this time, but the floor is open for a chairman for the traffic stop subcommittee. And council members, you can nominate other council members as well. You don't have to self-nominate. You can nominate someone else. They may be shy, and so you can help them out with nominating them for this particular assignment.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm respectfully going to ask if I can nominate Hacky Zell. I think he's been very involved, I know, in the communications subcommittee, and he's also very passionate about that subject. So he's brought up a lot of great points that, I've heard you, and I really commend your passion. I think you'd be great for it if you've got the time and the desire. So, I'm not going to voluntold you, but I do, because I respect you too much. But I'm going to ask you if it's okay if I nominate you.
Hack, you're on mute right now. Please unmute yourself so we can hear you. Your smile looks like you're going to say yes.
Don't let that smile fool you. I really appreciate the nomination, and if we have gone to quarterly meetings, I'll accept your nomination.
Now, it's quarterly meetings with the communication subcommittee. With traffic stop, you'd be able to set the meetings based on the agenda and accomplishments that the traffic stop subcommittee has been looking at. Okay, so that frees you up from communication, so you won't have that you won't have all those meetings.
I understand.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other nominations, or would we close? Is there a motion to close on that one nomination? Paul, your hand is still up.
Madam Chair, I vote to close before he has a chance to rescind his
I
agreement.
understand. Is there a second to that motion?
Yep, second.
Thank you, Frank. Councilmember Walsh. It has been properly moved and seconded that Hack Ezel will serve as the chairman for the traffic stop subcommittee. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Doris. Okay, Emily. Emily might have stepped away from her device. And Becca. Okay, Moyu.
Madam Chair, as a point of order, because these are committees, by Robert's rules, I believe the chair has the right to appoint chair people without a vote from the.
The chair has the right, but I chose as chair for commitment and participation. Remember, as I shared with you earlier, this is a volunteer committee.
Yes, ma'am.
And in order to ensure that participants don't feel voluntold, but they have been empowered to say that they would participate, I like to see the votes that way, because that lets me know that they are committed and that they weren't just railroaded. But thank you very much for your point of observation. And Robert's rules does say that the chair could, but does not say that the chair must. So that's why you have the flexibility there. Okay, I don't believe there were any opposers, because I was looking through as Councilman Tamburino was talking. So thank you very much, Councilman Ezel. We really, truly appreciate it. If there's information, I think you probably have all of the subcommittee reports from Traffic Stop to be able to go back and take a look, see. If not, please let me know, and I'll pull that information up and email it to you. But I think you have it, because you have been on top of everything. So I think we're good. Thank you so much. Okay, any questions about any of the subcommittee reports? All right, we'll move on now to the City of Charleston Police Department updates. Captain Cretella, you're up, I believe, for General Order number 1, the mission, and you can just carry us through because I think Captain Cutella, you have the majority of the items. I do want to say again to you and Deputy Chief Walker, thank you so much for your time for us to discuss a process we believe will be suitable to ensure timeliness and accurate review of the general orders. So many thanks to you and Deputy Chief Walker again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm gonna probably go down through this presentation. And it's pretty much in the numerical order that was laid out in the in the meeting minutes. So the first thing that we're gonna discuss is General Order 1, which is our mission and objectives. If you recall, this was on our priority list for us. This was one of the policies that hasn't been touched in quite a few years, actually. We came back to revisit it. And what we did was basically compressed it into a few sentences. This policy used to be about 2 to 3 paragraphs long, and it had a lot of words in there just that didn't need to be in there to strictly focus on our mission and objectives. And I'm not gonna read this verbatim because we all can read, but the things I wanted just to point out is that we treat anyone that comes in our jurisdiction with respect, fairness, and compassion. And at the end is that, in the defense of the Constitution, that we apply in a fair and impartial manner to everyone. And those are the two things that we wanted to make known about us at the Charleston Police Department, is that we treat everyone fairly and impartially. So you're going to ask, so what was the difference between the old policy and the new policy, which is a legitimate question. And on this screen here, in our old policy, we had 3 functional objectives for the mission and objectives. They were the prevention of crime, the deterrence of crime, and the apprehension of offenders. And just by those 3 items there, you could clearly see that the old policy focused on crime, and that's all it was. It didn't talk about anything whatsoever outside of the aspect of crime. So our team sat down, we said, okay, what is the mission of the Charleston Police Department? So now we went from those 3 functional objectives to these 6 new ones. And the first one is the prevention of crime, which it has to be there as a law enforcement agency. That's what we do. The apprehension of offenders, which is the other extension of the prevention of crime. And the new 4 ones that we came up with is community policing. That is Chief Reynolds' first mission, if you will, since he's been here since day one. That is what he's preached about, the community policing, having these relationships that better us and better the community. We want to put that in there. We also want to make it known about internal affairs, about who we are, what we do, and to talk about the compliments or complaints and how to file them and what our objectives are. To focus on the Leadership Development Institute, which is the growing of not only the sworn component, but our professional staff individually, to talk about the leadership opportunities, both internally and externally within the organization. And the last objective that we wanted to hit on was a professional development and training of, once again, not only the sworn component, but the professional staff that has the day-to-day operations of interacting with the community. So these were the biggest changes to GO1. And as you can see, it's completely different from what we had before, which was just focused on, the issues with crime. Does anyone have any questions about General Order 1 or why we did what we did? All right, hearing none, we're gonna move on to our next topic, which is the audit update. So the last time we spoke, everything pretty much stayed the same on this screen, and this is a snapshot of the dashboard. We still have our 8 items that are in progress. Out of that, 5 relate to traffic. 2 of those relate to a piece that deal with our intel unit that's classified under that. And the last one is reference to our third-party assessment. So in reference to the 8 actionable items that we have left, we are in progress of working on our objectives within the traffic division. And once those fall into line, then subsequently we can move on to the other 4 policies that deal with the traffic objectives. In relationship to the 2 that deal under our intel unit, those essentially deal with some outside entities with the state that we're dealing with. And it is getting the state to add a data field to capture what we're looking to capture. We've worked with the vendor. We've worked with the state. We've had some positive communication, but right now we are at a stalemate. We can only do what the state's allowing us to do. So we are in communication with them. We haven't given up on that, but that is taking some time as expected. And I will move, and our last one is our assessment of the third party. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. That we did have a big update that rolled out earlier today, and that is under the recommendations. We've added a lot more meat and potatoes in there, if you will. We've took out a lot of the police jargon and acronyms that we've had. So when you do access the dashboard, you will see a different look to the recommendations as we have truly updated it to reflect present day CPD 2021. Any questions on the audit updates?
Captain Quintella, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know I heard you say that the state, you had a stalemate with the state regarding a method for capturing data.
Correct.
So if the state does not, do we not have the capability within CPD to capture the data?
So from my understanding is that this is a state form, and the state actually has to amend their state form and add that box that we're looking for. So we are hopeful that it's going to happen. We haven't given up yet. They know we just need to kind of give them to do it. And once they do it, then that one section of the audit will be moved into the full compliance piece. But we are hopeful to it. It's just taking a little bit more time than what we thought, but we are not giving up on it. And no way am I saying that it's not going to happen. It's just taking more time than what was anticipated.
So in the interim, is there something planned? I mean, can that information be collected at CPD level so that whenever the state adds the block, we would have already been capturing data? Because I mean, if
Yes.
it's still an audit finding for us, you know, for Charleston Police Department, and to say that, well, you know, the dog ate my homework and this happened, that's why I didn't have my homework. You know, that's not gonna, I don't think that's gonna quite work well, even though you all are doing a tremendous job, and we appreciate it. The concern though is that the state doesn't have, my concern is the state doesn't have the skin in the game that the police department does.
You are 100% correct. And my response is going to be that, so we can capture that data. However, by the state adding this one text box, if you will, it makes it that so that our systems could talk internally better. So we can capture the data, which we are capturing now. It's just, this would help the ease of it. So it's something that we are doing, but it's taking 3 or 4 extra steps to make sure that these systems talk to where this would be an automatic step where this could make the system talk by itself. I'm sure I'm not using the correct vernacular there. This is not my wheelhouse, but does that help clarify that?
Yeah,
And
it
Tony,
does, because, oh, I'm sorry, Deputy Chief Walker.
yeah, if I can just interject one more piece to that. All this was done internal. This, everything that you're explaining, the things that CPD did was actually start capturing every encounter during a field contact. That was one of the major pieces of the audit that we did, that we were able to implement without having to go through the data points with the state. There's no way to get around adding that data point. We're not at liberty to add that field because it's a uniform traffic citation that's electronically provided through all agencies by the state. So we are at their beck and call with that piece of the audit, but that haven't prevented the agency from taking the necessary steps. This goes back to what we've been talking about a lot with this audit. This is not going to be an overnight fix. This is going to be a process. And especially when you're talking about building out technology that we currently don't have, and really the state don't have. We're asking for new systems, and we're asking for new data, and we're asking for different processes that didn't exist. So it's not, I don't want you to think we're kicking the can down the road. That's absolutely not the case. but it is going to require some patience. And in the interim, us doing what we have to do to kind of feed back to our community, if that makes sense.
It does, it does. And really, the reason why I was asking the question was because I thought Captain Bruder, I've had conversations with him in the past. He seems to be very computer astute. And we talked about opportunities, and the deficiencies with the state's reporting. And I thought you all were still collecting the data.
Yeah,
But when I heard Captain Cotella, I thought I heard him say that you got to wait until you get that block on that form. But you are actually collecting the data internal to CPD
yeah,
and still
it's-
and waiting with expectancy for that block to be added to the form, correct?
yes, it's efficiency. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
about efficiency, and that reporting block will make it easier. Our
Right.
systems still don't talk, and it's
Mm-hmm.
and that's the major problem. That was one of the major pieces of the audit is the systems.
Right.
But some of the systems are not, like I say, within the control of the agency itself, and we
Mhm.
still have to go through a second party. So getting
Understand.
them to actually help us upgrade to better read what we do have, that's kind of putting it in layman's terms, what we're
Mm-hmm.
attempting to do.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
a clarifying question. Is it true that the holdup and the delay in terms of the coordination and the motion by the state most affects our ability to analyze the data pertaining to the traffic stops?
So we are able to analyze that data. What we're just saying is by them adding that text box, it's an automated way of reporting to now where our data analysts have to pull from 2 or 3 systems. Once that box is added, it becomes automatic for us to pull. It makes it a lot easier, but we still are looking at that data now. It's just taking some extra steps.
No, I guess my point was that the attempt, I just wanted to clarify for the other council members that the area that this impacts most directly is traffic. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jerry, that's correct. It's all part of the uniform traffic citation module.
Okay, I just wanted other folks to understand that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Any other questions for Captain Cotella or for Deputy Chief Walker regarding this, the audit update? Okay, thank you, Captain Cotella. I think you can move on to the next item too.
All righty. The next one is the Director of Procedural Justice update. We've talked about this. As you know, last time we weren't able to fulfill that position. This position closed, I believe it was a week and a half ago, possibly. We are on to the next phase of it. We've already received some responses back from the next phase. We are hoping to have our oral interview with the candidates before the end of April. And as you and DC Walker have spoken, that this one that you would be a part of that, with that aspect of it. But once again, we are moving pretty quickly on that. Like I said, we are in the second phase, and by the end of April, we are hoping to have those candidates at least have the oral interview completed, or at least scheduled if something would come up with their schedule or whatnot.
Did you have a greater pool submitted this time from last time?
So we did have a higher number that submitted. Of course, when you filter them out, if you will, we still had a good representation of candidates that moved on to the second phase. And, we are happy to say that they've actually responded from the second phase of it. So we do have interested candidates.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Thank
And
you.
Tony, can I add in? I'm sorry.
Yes,
to
sir.
keep interjecting. But it's just helpful. And just looking at the job market, we're trying to make it a lot more efficient this time around, Ms. Fieldings, because that's what I say, if we lag, these people are looking for employment. So by the time we roll back around, it left us with like 1 or 2 candidates. And like I explained the last time, I just don't think that's what we're not looking to appoint or hire someone by default. We want a good, robust group of candidates to choose from. So it just closed last Friday, like Captain Cotella said, and we got a good pool. So you will be hearing from me more than likely by the end of next week.
Okay.
All All right.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions about Director of Procedural Justice update? And again, that is the third-party position that had been vacated and that the police department is trying to get filled. Okay, no other questions. So now, status of 2021 ISO report.
So I did have a question. In terms of the ISO report, I know we've talked back and forth. Is that, at one point, it was the report with Miss Amber Johnson with the city, with the Reconciliation Committee, and then it was the end of year report, the Internal Affairs end of year report. Which one are we talking about?
Councilman Harris, when you submitted that, were you talking about both?
So the 2021 data,
Uh-huh.
that would be the ISO report, the standard ISO report that presented the various levels of complaints, the demographics of the department, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I was making reference to.
Oh, okay. And I thought you were talking of both, so I didn't clarify on the agenda. So Captain Quintella, does that answer?
Yes, ma'am, I can still speak to that.
Okay,
So
good deal.
the PSO report has been submitted to our legal team, obviously just to review. They're going to go through it, and we are hoping to have that rolled out by the end of April. And that'd be in conjunction with our department end of year report as well. So once again, by the end of April, we're hoping to roll both of those reports out simultaneously. And just give us a few days, give or take, should something happen, but that is our deadline.
And now, Captain Quintella, did you want to go ahead and discuss the process for CPAC review of the general orders and directives prior to public release?
Sure. So obviously, you know that this has been a interested item among all parties involved. We want to incorporate all parties. And I think for the last few months, we've been talking about it. So I will give you a proposal from the department side, and you can let us know your thoughts on it, which I think it's fair and robust, and we're going to actually accomplish our mission. So what we're proposing is that for the policies that CPAC wants to review, obviously there's some that you obviously probably don't have the most interest in over some that you do have really interest in, is that after it goes through the command review process, is that we would give CPAC 11 business days, because that would incorporate also 3 weekends to actually review the policy. And you could provide us with any feedback you have. So we'd give it to you, just say on a Friday, and then that'd give you the following weekend. They'll give you a full week plus the weekend, plus another full week, plus the weekend and another day, usually be on a Monday, if that's the 11 business days, to provide us with any feedback you have. We would look at the feedback, then we'd provide you with, our comments, if we will accept it. If you just say provide a suggestion and we said, hey, by case law or by state law, we cannot do this, but we'd actually provide you feedback on your feedback. And then we'd publish it after we had, that conversation. But we are open to suggestions. You just let us know what your thoughts are.
Council members, what's your feeling on that? And again, what Captain Quintella was talking about is the different policies and procedures that need to be reviewed. We would get 11 business days not calendar, business days. So actually it's a few more days when you count the calendar days to be able to review and respond with our comments. And it would be individual council members reviewing and then submitting your comments to probably Captain Quintella and copy Council Member Harris, since he's the chairman of the Policy Procedure Subcommittee. And so Paul had his thumb up. He agrees.
So,
Okay, thank you, Matt.
so Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I think that the suggested time frame is fine. I think it's going to be a bit awkward, and we need to think through the process for, I guess, compiling comments in their submission. But I think what you've outlined initially works. So I think we need to review that after we've done it once or twice to see whether or not that works for both the council and the department. And the other thing, Tony, I would suggest that you provide an update, your grid in terms of when you're getting to things. The grid that you provide us with, you indicate which items that you're working on. That also could be helpful so folks can have kind of a beforehand kind of sense, okay, this is coming.
I think we could do that. And I think maybe in the next policy subcommittee, we can work and you guys can we'll let you know what policies that we're going to focus on this year. And then you could let us know what policies that you want to have special attention to, just so we could kind of outline those in priorities and make sure that you guys are included in those if that works for you as well.
Yeah, I think we attempted to do that with the relatively small number of members on the committee. With the new directive from the chair, that may mean that we have more members who are interested in different policies. So we just need to match that up. But yeah, I'm excited about this. This sounds great.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Grant?
Just one question. Is there a written process for this? Have we been provided a written process, or are you just stating that right now?
So right now we are kind of still, I guess, deliberating and kind of how we want this process to work. And then once we agree on it, I could ask Steve, what's the best way to have this process detailed out for everyone involved?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilwoman Grant, this came up because a couple of general orders, I believe, got released to the public before CPAC got a chance to review. And when you look at the guidelines for CPAC, we're supposed to participate in the review of those documents. The anticipation would be that we would review it before it gets released to the rest of the public, so that if there are things that we could catch for the police department and share with them, those things could be worked on prior to it actually getting released to the public. So as a result, at the last CPAC meeting, we talked about getting with Captain Quintella and Deputy Chief Walker to decide some type of suitable means, a win-win solution type, to work the way through the policies and procedures or policies and directives that needed to be reviewed, and making sure the CPAC was included in that process before it actually gets released.
Yeah, I was aware.
Yeah, you were in there.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
was a part of that conversation. I just wanted to know if that was if there was anything written that we could review as far
Right.
as, what process they were developing. It was just a question.
Yeah, I got you.
Mhm.
So you're thinking like some kind of standard operating procedure to kind of tell the council members what is expected, more than just we'll notify you that this document is up for review. Please submit your comments within the next 11 business days, date so-and-so. And then what happens there? You talk about like what kind of spreadsheet would we use to submit?
Well,
our
no,
comments?
just based on what he presented, I just wanted to know if that was a written process, or if they were developing something in writing, so that,
gotcha.
there's some consistency in the process, so it wouldn't get lost along the way.
Right, as we proceed. You're right. I got you. Okay.
Madam Chair, just a
Yes,
further
sir.
articulation of that, you recall, I guess maybe 6 months ago, the policy committee suggested a 30-day time frame for review.
Right.
Be incorporated into the actual general order that addresses the development of that. this language should be either referred to. It may not be in there. I know, it depends how Steve works his magic. But if it's not in that general order, then the procedure and how the department intends to implement that practice should be in writing. I think I agree with Councilwoman Grant on that.
Yeah, I do too. Sounds like that'd be one of the ones kind of top on the list for reviewing as well.
Yeah, I mean, it should. I think the language could be incorporated, but what I heard Captain Cretella said, he needs to talk to Steve to see how, that works between the general order structure and the guidelines of CPAC. How that, where that document is referred to. So that sounds like something that's going to come back to us.
Right, probably at the at the next policy procedure subcommittee meeting, because that's
We certainly be prepared to review and comment it for the rest of the council on that.
well, the rest of the council now is going to be involved too, remember?
Yeah, but
Because
yeah,
we're all
yeah.
going to be coming to policy procedure subcommittee meeting. That's the hope and expectation.
Yeah, well, you just raised another issue then. So the question then becomes if there is a comment or consensus on the part of all of the members who participate in the policy committee, does that then become a statement on the part of the council? Will that still have to come to the council? And I don't want to get us to go through that conversation now, but that's something to think about.
Depends on the participation that we have at that. We don't know what that's going to be. So it depends.
Yep. I agree.
We can address that during that policy procedure committee as well. Okay, any other comments or questions about that process for CPAC reviewing of general orders?
So,
And
Ms. Swan,
again, yes, sir. Yes,
I just want to make sure. So we are good with the 11 business days, and I'll get with Steve on the wording for that. And then we will meet in the next policy subcommittee, let them know what policies we are working on for the rest of 2022. And then they will tell us what policies they're interested in. And that way we could make the timing more affordable for everybody. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think too, Steve will need to be at that. I know Steve has been going to the meetings, but during that meeting, we'll need a little more clarity to be shared regarding the process, like what Councilwoman Grant and Councilman Harris were saying. What exactly will be the process if there, and is that going to be put in writing? So I guess Steve can tell us that at the subcommittee meeting. That gives him time to check into it and for you and he to get a chance to talk before you come to the subcommittee meeting.
Perfect. I think we're on the same page, and I thank you for your
good.
cooperation with everyone. I think this is a good resolution.
Yeah, I think so too. But it does need to be memorialized somewhere, in writing. But okay, we can chat about that the next meeting. Okay, thank you, Captain Cretella. That takes us now to Captain McFadden with updates on community engagement.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I thought Captain Cretella also is going to report on the third party assessment.
Oh, did I miss that? Oh, it was on the tail of the B item. Captain Cretella, it was implementation of racial bias audit recommendations and status of third-party assessment.
Correct. I'm sorry, I forgot about that one too. Thank you, Mr. Harris. So we are in the process of working with that. DC Walker and I have formed a team together to search this out, and it does have to go through the city RFP process. So we just can't select a group, but we have a committee formed. We are going to meet not this week, but the following week to actually talk about our specific objectives and to get the ball rolling on that one.
Any
With the time-
questions about the third-party assessment?
Anticipated timetable, target that you guys would be proposing to the department, the procurement process?
So we want to do the sooner the better, but we also have the process we have to go through, but we also want to get the right people involved. So it is going to take a little bit of time, but we are not going to drag this audit item out because this is one of the actionable items that's still outstanding that we need to tackle here.
Any other questions or comments on that? So based on what you said, Captain Patella, you're meeting with HR the week after Easter. So that's near the end of April, right?
So we have an internal meeting to look at the objectives that we want them to accomplish. And then after that, then we'll have to go to actually procurement and talk to them about the process. And then they'll outline the RFP process from there.
Is there a targeted, is there a goal, a targeted date set? Even though, you know, it would be an estimated date?
Captain Curtella, if you'd like, I can speak on the procurement process and how that's going to look.
Since you are a lot more knowledgeable than I am, yes, please.
So
Thank
what'll
you.
happen, Madam Chair, this is Cassandra with CPD. We'll
Nice
have to
meet
go
you.
out
Thank
for, thank you. We'll have to go out for an RFP. So it'll be put out to the public for proposals submitted. And then there will be a committee formed to make a selection on that. We're probably looking at least 3 to 4 months once the objectives have been completed. And then that will have to, once the selection committee has selected the vendor, it'll then go to council for approval. And then that's when we would proceed.
Okay. So you're looking at more like the mid to end of summer, right?
Yes, ma'am. Probably. I would venture to say about that time because it has to go through a contract, legal review, and council approval.
Right, right.
And one
Thank you
thing,
very much.
one thing to add, Ms. Buildings, it will include either yourself or Mr. Tamburino will be contacted when that group is formed for representation.
Okay,
All right, so it's
All
just
right.
the same, it's the same format that we're doing with the process with procedural
retro
justice.
procedure, yeah.
And then it'll be on YouTube due to your positions and how we proceed with the
Okay.
CPAC group, okay?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thanks
Thanks,
to
Cassandra.
all three of you. Any other questions on the third party assessor? Acquisition? Okay. And thanks, Councilman Harris, for bringing that to our attention. Okay, community engagement, Captain McFadden. Any updates?
Hi, good evening. Just some updates from the past couple of months. Our community centers, some notable outreach. The Gathering Center in Gadsden Green, obviously we're still engaged with our year-long youth mentor program with Low Country Youth Services. And this quarter, they've discussed some role models and also conducted a community cleanup in Gadsden Green. Our housing unit created our first fishing trip out of that center, the kids that attend the center. And the fishing rods were also donated by the Charleston Housing Authority. So a big thank you to them on that. We are working on an instructional video production to advertise the Gathering Center and advertise the adult programs. Our victim advocates are hosting there also, just to increase engagement with the adults and provide resources to them. So that video, we're probably advertise that on social media just to drum up some support and again, make everyone aware of that center in Gadsden Green. We have seen an approximate percentage of 72% for a violent reduction in violent crime in the past 3 quarters since we opened that community center. So that is huge for that community and neighborhood. Our multi-purpose learning center, that's going very well. It's a little bit smaller than the Gathering Center, but we have already created a youth chess club and started with that with some volunteers assisting us and teaching chess to some of those kids that live over there in Robert Mills. Also, there are spring breaks upcoming, so just to kind of take them on a little trip, the youth in that community, we are going to plan a little beach trip with some games and take them out for a good lunch over at the beach. Moving on to the partnership project with Coastal Crisis Chaplaincy. This year started off really well. We are looking to hold like quarterly neighborhood meetings and activities just to engage some specific neighborhoods that may be having some crime issues as well. We started in the Ardmore neighborhood, not because they have crime issues, but because Coastal Crisis Chaplaincy was kind of familiar with some residents over there. So we had a couple community meetings, and then in accordance with the chaplaincy and then also the community members, they elected to plan a walk of trust, which we held last month, and that event went very well as well. We have upcoming meetings for the after action of the walk of trust, and then also to plan our next quarter meetings and choose our next kind of neighborhood service projects and events. And moving on to our other engagement and outreach. We restarted Coffee with a Cop. So we're trying to hit every team and then also have the team area patrol officers, since those are their neighborhoods that they're patrolling, in there as well. Greg's Groceries, actually just yesterday, we sent a team to Columbia, and those are the pictures on there from that packing yesterday. We packed over 100 food boxes with Greg's Groceries to distribute to our communities. Also, a month ago, Sergeant Staggers was named a Greg's Groceries ambassador for his work that he has done with this program. If you want to know a little bit about the program, it's a statewide outreach program. It was created by Cassie Aaliyah. She is the widow of Gregory Aaliyah, who was a Forest Acres police officer. He was shot and killed in the line of duty in 2015 while trying to protect the community. So she came up with this idea, and it has had a powerful and positive impact, obviously on our communities and also on our police officers who are doing this and interacting with our citizens. Moving on, Police Citizens Academy, unfortunately, could not start last night due to our hazardous weather conditions. So we are starting next week. Pretty amped up to get that going. Pretty much the ones that went through in the fall, it's a lot of the same units, a lot of the same trainers. Again, we did shorten it by a week, but we are pretty excited to get that going again. Open house, I'm actually doubling that with sort of a recruitment event. That's gonna be April 28th. We do have a advertisement plan in place that we'll start doing shortly. You might see a couple banners as you get onto the Ashley River Bridge and then outside the police station that we just placed, and then we'll start with advertising that as well. And then we begin our senior citizen outreach events. Those are going to begin April 14th. I think we already have 3 planned upcoming as we move into the summer. And then we're also going to roll out our command post. We did this a lot pre-COVID, maybe a little bit during COVID, but we're going to deploy the command post to have our patrol officers do roll calls in their communities. And then usually when we roll that out, the community members will just kind of begin to gather, and we'll be able to engage and answer some questions as they gather around the command post. Some of our notable youth engagement, we did create and begin a soccer team at Angel Oak Elementary, and they're going to actually compete and participate in North Charleston PD's CAPS program. We also partnered with the Mayor's Book Club. We got many pallets of books from the book club. We've given them pretty much all away, and we created some pop-up events for the kids as they come off the school buses. We had a notable event in Bridgeview, and then they also get to hang out with officers as well. Bridgeview Village did hire an outreach coordinator that's going to assist us in that community. So not only do we have a day officer and then a midnight shift officer there because we have a contract with them, we now have an outreach coordinator. So historically, that we have had a lot of crime in that neighborhood. So So I think this is going to be a net positive, and we'll be able to start doing some outreach and events in Bridgeview. So Charleston Police were playing basketball against some local high school teams, and we're also speaking to them to promote anti-bullying messaging. That's on our social media as well. Those games have been going very well. We unfortunately lost to West Ashley High School last Friday. We play Burke High School tomorrow. And we're getting about 100 bikes donated from Pedal for Peanuts. We're going to receive those soon, probably just in time for open house to do some giveaways to some of our youth. And then partnering with City Rec for summer basketball program in Forest Park. And happy to announce Camp Hope is returning full scale in June. So we just started planning for that. Obviously, my outreach coordinator, Laquilla Smalls, does all the planning for that, but the camp is actually pretty much run by our school SROs. So we're pretty excited to get back to that platform. That's pretty much all I have. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts for me?
Captain McFadden, is it
Tamburino.
possible? Yeah, Captain McFadden, is it possible when you talk about having meetings in various neighborhoods, if you know enough in advance, is it possible to reach out to the CPAC member responsible for that district, just to give them a heads up in case they want to participate?
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Captain McFadden?
Yeah,
Actually, Captain McFadden, if you could send it to all of us, if you could just email it to everyone, because there's some folks who may work in other areas and might be able to stop by.
Well, and Torn, that's kind of where I'm going. And to Paul's point, I think I say this almost every time I'm on here. The engagement piece with this body is very important, not just when we roll into the neighborhood, but also when we have different things going on like this. You know, following the social media sites, the communication piece is advertised. So we solicit your participation. We need your participation. If you guys are not participating, it's kind of hard to expect other people's from your respective areas to participate. So I will keep beating that drum, and hopefully, you know, we'll see a lot more engagement. So, but we welcome y'all to all these events, especially things going on with the kids, the youth programs. We need a lot more mentoring. But I know people have other obligations, but in your spare time, if you have some, we welcome you and we need you. So that's my piece.
Thanks, Deputy Chief Walker. Okay, that takes us then to topics for our next agenda. If you would please, again, mull over what we've discussed at, excuse me, this meeting tonight. And if you would email me your suggested agenda items, there are a few action items that came up during the course of tonight's meeting that I took note of. And so I'll make sure to have those on the agenda for a recap. And the minutes will be coming out before the deadline for submitting agenda items. So please take a look in the minutes and get a chance to see if there are any other items that hit you that need to be discussed or listed on the agenda. Our next meetings are for June would be the first Thursday, and that then would be June the 2nd. And August would be August the 4th. Am I correct with those dates, you all? June 2nd and August 4th. And I know we said we would move to 6 o'clock for the Zoom meetings. Are we still good for 6 o'clock? Our meetings used to be 5:30. Is that good for everyone?
Will the next meeting be Zoom or in person?
Not certain. It depends on what is going on with the police department. Captain McFadden or Steve Rumelin or Deputy Chief Walker. Do you have any idea if that next one would be Zoom or would be in person?
I I think we're open to it. I think the city is open back up. I think it's just coming to agreement amongst this group and Steve, what's going to be best for everyone. I think it's a new normal now, so we still have that option, even those that can't make it in person, maybe being able to still facilitate a Zoom for those that can't make it, but we can definitely discuss it.
Maybe we should send something out then, Paul, to the council and see if folks are interested in being more of the next meeting being in person or the next meeting being Zoom.
Yeah, I agree.
I will
think
say
we've had
that
a
the
lot of-
participation has
turnover.
been greater. The participation has been greater. I know when we were doing the meetings in person before the pandemic, we struggled with getting a quorum to be able to accept the minutes. Steve, I think you may recall that, where we went nearly a year where we could not approve our minutes because we didn't have a quorum present. But it appears, like Andrea said at the very beginning on the outset, we already had the quorum, which was marvelous, even when some folks had not dialed in yet.
I think with the hybrid option, even if some of us choose to meet in person and the rest do it on Zoom, I still think we'll have a pretty strong showing. And both parties, because the last time we did the poll, I think there was only one person that may have said, now we've had turnover. So there's a lot of more members, but I personally like the option of being able to go in person. And if I can't, I can appear over Zoom.
Okay. Captain McFadden, is that a Google poll that you could send to everyone?
Yes, possibly. After the meeting or later this week, I'll try to put it together for you.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't have to be today or anything like that. It's not an urgent thing, just to find out, just to get an idea if folks would prefer, what's their first preference for the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Well, everyone, thank you so very much for coming to tonight's meeting. We really appreciate your participation. Looking forward to all of us seeing each other again, or the majority of us seeing each other again at the next policy procedures meeting that will happen sometime in May. And also be on the lookout for the communication subcommittee, communication for the community at large on Zoom that's going to be early May as well. Any other items that we may have missed? Oh, you're shaking your head. What would that
No,
give?
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Okay, all right, thank you. It's been moved for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Grant. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye or raise your hand. All right, I think that's probably everybody. Go thumbs up, yay. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good night, stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.